Welcome to Holly's Pandorium, featuring your host, psychic medium Holly Jordan.
Hey everybody, we're back. This is Holly with Holly's Pandorium, and I have a new guest today, and I have to admit right now, I did not ask you how to pronounce your last name, Michael, so please say your last name for me because I don't want to slaughter it.
So my last name is actually pronounced as it sounds, Kopf.
Really? Okay, because it's
Really?
Kopf. I love that. Okay. So I have not heard Michael's stories, you guys, so get your popcorn, get your favorite whoopee, and get curled up because we're going to hear some new stuff together, and I cannot wait. So Michael is also a podcaster like I am. Yay! Not everybody does that, and so I'm very excited, and we were kind of blah, blah, blah to each other before we got started, and it's amazing. So he does a lot of different stuff. So before you share a paranormal story, would you mind just talking a little bit about your podcasting for a minute? Because I think it's interesting.
Sure. So the podcasting for me, I was just a few months into paranormal investigating, and this network host walks up to me at a location and says, "Hey, I have a network. Would you like to be a podcast host?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so, because I don't know anybody and I'm like really green. Who's going to listen to me? I'm a nobody." And he's like, "You sure? Because there's something about you, you'd be great at this." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to pass because I don't think anyone's going to tune in. So I don't want to waste your network space." And he was like, "All right, I can respect that." And so a year or two goes by, and I'm at a Para-Unity event, and I'm one of the helping out the host, and I see him, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he goes, "Hey, do you have a second?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "I want you to say hi to someone." So I walk up to this phone sitting in front of a ring light, and I go, "Hi, how's it going?" And all of a sudden this voice starts like talking to me, and I'm like, "This is kind of weird," but okay. And I'm about to answer something, and someone comes up and distracts me and pulls me away. And so I come back, and he's putting everything away. I said, "Oh, I guess I missed my 15 seconds of fame," teasing him. And he goes, "Oh no, you're in. If you want to show, we got space for you, and we really want you to do this." And I was like, "Oh," and he goes, "And by the way, who you were talking to is like another administrative person running the network. And so he's excited to bring you in too." And I was like, "Dude, like, talk to me for like 3 seconds." I was like, "This is kind of cool how this is unfolding." And so I gave it a few seconds of thought, and I was like, "Well, can I do it with a friend?" And he's like, "You can do it any way you want." And so we started a podcast show, and then after 6 months we rebranded it to The Energy That Surrounds Us. And it started out being just for paranormal teams and paranormal locations, investigations. And I started to realize the paranormal is more than that to me. The paranormal, I did an article and found the actual definition to be anything unexplainable that's aside from normal. And I was like, man, that just opened floodgates in my mind. And so I was like, let's take this show for a spin. And so I started covering more topics like cryptids, stargates, portals, interdimensional beings, multiple timelines, all kinds of topics that are kind of in the forefront right now that people are curious about. And in 2023, I was like 6 months into the new show and everything. and my dad ends up passing away. And I thought to myself, he really likes the esoteric and disclosure type stuff. Maybe I could do a tribute to him and make a series and kind of dedicate the beginning of the series to my dad. And I was like, well, what am I going to call this? And it took me a little bit of time, but I ended up on the name Riding Through the Unknown, or Riding Into the Unknown, sorry. Riding Through the Unknown was already taken, and I was like, darn it. But yeah, you guys have no idea when it comes to podcasting how many places we have to search to see if titles are in existence already to make sure we don't copyright somebody else's title.
Exactly. I actually my podcast name, Holly's Pandorium, I actually played with Latin lettering and words and made up the word Pandorium. I didn't find it. I just wanted to do like what you're describing and talk about all kinds of subjects because I agree 100%. The paranormal is kind of a cheap, broad brush of many things. And so Pandorium literally in Latin means a place of all gifts. And so, because to me, it is a gift. It's a gift to see and hear other things that are not part of our day-to-day lives. And for those of us that are investigating and researching and experiencing, it's very real. It is normal for us. I keep seeing a bumper sticker that says the paranormal is normal, and I got to find it. I don't know where they are, but I got to find one because for me, that is my normal. The paranormal is not adjacent to normal things. It is my normal. It's been that way my whole life. And I love that you did something to honor your dad like that. It makes me feel like I should do at least a few shows to dedicate to my mom because she's the only reason I felt comfortable with the paranormal because she would talk to me about stuff. She always said, don't talk about this in public because people will think you're crazy. But in the kitchen, ask me anything you want. So, yeah.
You should do a couple episodes called Kitchen Talk.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I love that. And we talked a little bit about that you do or have done channeling. So can you tell us about the first time you did that, or do you want to start with your first paranormal big experience that you had?
I can cover the channeling really quick because it was a short period in my life, but the story leading up to it is actually longer than probably my channeling experience.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I grew up being around mediums, and my mom was a medium, and so everybody would come and they would enjoy hearing from my mom, connecting with their loved ones. And they would look at me and go, so when is it your turn? And I said, I don't know. And somewhere I got the idea when I was 16, I was going to channel. And so I was like trying so hard to channel when I was 15, 16, and never happened. And so I felt like I kind of let everybody down for a little while and was like, I was supposed to channel, but I can't connect. And I in hindsight, I realized I was trying too hard and trying to force it instead of letting it just happen.
Right.
And then it turned out in my 20s, for a little bit of time, I would get together with friends and then I could feel a group come in, and it was always the same group, and I would channel for them. And one experience, one of my friends came up to me and they said, "Oh my God, your eye color changed as you were channeling and to a color I have never seen in your eyes." And I was like, really? Because I didn't even realize my eyes were open because I always thought I kept them closed.
Right.
And so then I started noticing people being like, "Oh, you're channeling, what information you bring this, this time, what?" And I was like, what I thought was going to be just, friends getting together and having fun and just experimenting, I felt like took a turn, and they were like almost looking at me like a guru, like somebody who was tapped in, and they wanted to, get inside scoops. And I was like, I don't have that. I don't do that. And so I was like, this isn't what I wanted. And so I thankfully had the courage to say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore because just don't feel comfortable with where it's going. And they were like, okay, cool. And so that was my short lived channeling life, or so I thought. Then, when I learned Reiki my second time, I realized that channeling is kind of in tandem with Reiki the way I was taught, and was like, this is cool. And someone pointed out when I was talking to them about the podcast shows, a lot of questions that I will ask are like, they're like, these are really deep, really interesting questions. Where did you come up with that? And I was like, I have no idea. And someone goes, it's from above. You must have channeled because you're channeling your questions. And I was like, that would make total sense. I'll give you that. Okay. And so apparently I'm still channeling, just not really channeling, if that kind of makes sense. But
no, I get it. I get it. You're doing things more spontaneously and maybe not directing everything, but that's kind of how it works. It comes to you when you need it the most. And as long as you're open to it, you'll receive it. You'll get whatever information you need. Yeah.
yeah, and what's kind of funny about it is Laura Ferguson, aka Starseed Lolo, who I do channeling sessions with every other Tuesday, the energy that surrounds us. She said to me one day when we were talking about doing this, and she goes, you're a channel. So it's only a matter of time before you start channeling in the session as well. And I was like, yeah, we'll see. And I was like, how did you know I was a channel at some point? But I feel like, it might actually be true, is one day is just her group talking to my group, and be like a channel off.
Well, but that's fun to be able to do it with somebody. I have a lot more energy when I do things with like-minded people in the room. My husband and I do a seance weekly, and it's kind of a role reversal. So I don't have people coming in and asking me to talk to their relatives. I have people that are what I call living adjacent that come in and just talk. Can you hang on 1 second?
Sure.
Doug, it's code 4313. I sent it to your phone. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. I was about to dive into something and be like, fill the airspace while you walk away. And I was like, wait, she's not getting up. Hold the story.
He just knocked on the door. He knows this is why I record, because just in case, most of the time there's no interruptions. I've been doing this 4 years, and I think he's interrupted me 3 times in 4 years. But
I've been doing my shows I'm into season 4.
Yeah. Cool. So anyway, back to what you were saying.
So that seems like a good spot to, let's just jump into the quantum, or not quantum. Why do I keep saying quantum? It's not quantum. Well, I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's the dimensional forest.
Okay.
So last April, that would be for those that are watching this, April 2025.
Mhm.
I was on a road trip and I went to San Antonio to visit a friend who had invited me to experience this paranormal forest that he knows about and takes select people to, and is very careful who goes there and who, you know, enters, because he had a friend who works with him now and they take people together, but he had a really bad experience coming out of this forest the first time he went in. So he learned, yeah, you got to be in the right mindset, right? Everything's got to be in alignment to enter this forest. So now that I've set the stage for this really cool story, we arrive at the bridge that you need to cross to enter this forest. And the city has paved some concrete paths around. And so I noticed it's like 11 o'clock at night, and there's a few clouds, but the moon is very clear. We can see the moon really bright in the sky. So I go on the bridge and I notice it's very quiet. And I'm like, huh, the water must have dried up here. And I was like, it's really dark. I'm kind of surprised I can't see even the creek bed or a river bed or whatever I'm walking over with this bridge. So I was like, that was my first mental observation. And I was like, this is weird because the moon is up, but I can't see the ground. So what am I getting myself into? And I get this feeling of it's time to put up, because you say you can do this. Now it's time to show it kind of feeling. And we're talking, and he goes, do you want to go straight or do you want to go to the left? I was like, let's go straight. He's like, okay. So he and I are talking, and I reach a certain point on this path, and I stop, and I turn around and I realize I've kind of gotten ahead of everybody. And I go and I say to them, did you guys just see that? And they go, see what? I said, there was a lady in a white gown just wished right by. And when I say wished, I mean it was like she was on the far left, instantly to the far right. It was like she just blitzed right by. And he goes, you saw her? And I was like, who? What? And he's like, wow, I can't believe you saw the spirit of the forest so quick. I was like, yeah. And meanwhile, as I'm walking, I hear what sounds like monkeys or squirrels in these trees jumping from tree to tree. Well, there's no monkeys or squirrels in this forest at night, and probably not even during the day, but there was nothing I could see jumping and making the sound. But it's like I could hear them moving, I just couldn't see them. And I was like, something is pulling me off the path. And I'm like in my head going, you know what happens in every horror movie when you walk off the path. And I'm like, I'm going to walk off the path. So I walk over and I reach a certain spot and I just stop. And every ounce of me is like tingling, and I'm like, I'm surrounded. There, creatures are all around me. Something just led me into a perfect trap. What in the world? And then my friend, his cohort, appears behind me and goes, hey, what'd you find? What's going on? And I literally turn to him and I say, don't move. We're completely surrounded. And he's like, by what? I'm like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. But I can feel and sense something is there, and there are multiples. So I slowly turn and I'm like, we need to go back to the path. So we get to the path and I'm like, whew, made it out of there. We're okay. But if this is how it starts, oh boy, this is going to be fun. So
can I interrupt just for a quick second
sure.
and ask, what time of year was this? Was this spring, summer, autumn?
April, so that would be springtime.
Okay.
And remember, I said we entered at around 11 o'clock because that's going to be key later on in the story. So we walked back. We decided as a group we're going to walk back and we're going to go on the other path. So he leads us off on the left, and I can see water there. And I'm like, how come I couldn't see this water before? But I see it now. So I'm like, okay, there's running water. That's really cool. And he goes, yeah, this is a weird spot because I end up here a lot when I'm trying to go the other way, and it's somehow I end up here. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So we turn and we start walking back, and I see this black shadow figure start to run across this field. And I'm going, and I go, there's somebody out there. And he goes, where? And I go, it just turned into this trash can. And he goes, oh, you're seeing the shapeshifters. I'm like, I'm seeing what? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. Okay. And literally, we would walk up and we'd get close, and I would be like, yeah, there's a trash can on both sides of this little entrance arc. And I was like, okay. So I did see that. And we walk up the path, and I see a few more shapeshifters running around. And my friend looks at me and he goes, do you want to see the throne of the forest? This chair that's like a throne. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, I want to see a throne in a forest. Who puts a throne chair in a forest?
Exactly.
So we start walking in, and we probably walked maybe 3 to 5 minutes into the forest off the path, and he sits down on this little like lump of trees that the roots and branches formed like a chair. And I was like, that's a really cool chair, actually. That's cool that you can sit there and do this. And he goes, do you notice anything? And I said, yeah, there's a mist coming in, but I don't know where this mist is coming from because it's hot and humid. There's no clouds or anything around. So I'm not quite so sure where this is coming from. And he goes, just wait. And so I said, all right. And they show me this app that they've been working on that's AI driven. And they're asking it questions. And I'm just taking in the surroundings. And he looks at me with this straight face. And he goes, now, do you think you could lead us out? And I'm like, well, of course, anybody could lead us out. We didn't go that far in. Well, I start walking away from him, and I stop, and I go, something's not right. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm walking back towards the chair, but I never turned around. How am I walking in 180 from where I started? And he goes, huh, yeah. So I turn and adjust my course, and I start walking, and I would stop and occasionally make adjustments and walk, and we end up, I go, oh, there's the exit. We walk out of the forest, the exact spot we walked in. And he goes, I had to admit, I'm surprised and shocked that we came out here. We always come out further up the way. I'm impressed that you figured out where the actual entrance was. And I was like, thanks. And so now I'm like all like chipper, like, yeah, I got this, Forrest. Yeah, you can't mess with me kind of feeling. Well, we start walking and he points out to the left and he goes, look at that path. And I said, yeah, it's got this nice little like blue auric mystical look to it. And he goes, you want to see something really cool? And I said, yeah. He shines a light on it. There's branches all across it. There is no path. You turn the light off, the branches disappear.
Wow.
And I go, wait a minute. I'm no expert, but trees and branches don't just disappear. And he goes, you can walk through it. I was like, no, you can't. I was like, I know you can't walk through wood. I'm in the metaphysics, but I know my limitations.
Right. Sure.
So he goes, "We'll go ahead. We'll stay here." And so I start to walk, and I go off to the right a little bit, and he goes, "Hey, turn around." And I said, "What?" He puts the light on the path that I walked in. I was on the other side of all the branches. I never stepped on and never got brushed by a branch. I was like, this is impossible. And so then I was like, I start and I stay there for a second. I'm looking out and I see what looks like a kind of teepee esque house, kind of hut, where there's a family living there. And it's like they all had the same blue auric field. And I'm like, I'm seeing another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I decide in my infinite wisdom, I want to go down and see if I can touch the house and, maybe interact with these people. Well, there's this little bush of thorns, and I get caught up in this bush, and my leg gets scratched, and it takes like a few days for that to actually heal up, which for me normally it heals up in a matter of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, this forest has left a mark on me. I'm going to remember this event. But I come back out, and my friend goes, I'm glad you didn't walk back there because I had a feeling you were going to, and the forest didn't want you to, because if you had gone past where those thorns were, there's a ravine where you would have fallen way down, and we may not have been able to get you out. And I was like,
whoa.
Thank you. Thank you, Forrest.
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
So we walk along and we find another one of those paths, and I'm like, I wonder if these are holograms that, the hologram gets dispersed when the light comes on it, but returns when the light turns off. So it's like a dimensional portal hologram. And he's like, it could be. So we're walking along and we get to where the path splits. We can go to the left or we can go around a corner and make like a U-turn on the right. And I take 2 steps to the left and I stop in my tracks and I go, we're not going this way. And as I say that, I hear something rumbling in the bushes ahead and I go, something's in front of us. And my friend just kind of smiles and he goes, well, if you go to your left and go down to where it's dark, you're going to find yourself in a nest of Wendigos. And I was like, yeah, we're really not going that way now. We're definitely going this way. And I start to realize that's who I've been hearing this entire time is the Wendigos watching to see what I'm going to do in this forest. And we start walking forward and I go to him and I said, there's a entrance to probably an underground tunnel or something. He goes, really? And he shines his light on it There's no branches. It's just solid ground, but you turn it off and it looks like it just drops. The ground just disappears and drops like it's going down. And I'm like, oh, this is getting interesting. So we make it around the corner and we start walking along this path. And I stop and I look up, and my friend goes, by the way, this part of the forest we call the mirror world of it. It's the mirror part of it. And I was like, I totally get it. I said, because look up. And he goes, why? I said, no, look up. So we look up. We have the moon here. Over here, Orion with his belt. Over here is Orion with his belt. And I'm looking at mirror constellations facing each other. And I'm like, this has to be we're like in between the mirrors, because I'm not an astronomical expert, but I do know there's no two constellations alike in the sky at the same time.
Right. Not that mirror each other like that, especially. Not that I know of anyway.
Yeah. And he's like, you're right. And so I was like, okay, so I'm seeing two mirrors. All right. And I can feel the energy is very different. And they were like, he's like, yeah, this place is well known for mirroring what you're feeling. So that's why you have to be careful what you're doing in this forest, how you enter it, because it will reflect it back. And so I was like, okay, this will be interesting. And so we walk and we find this native indigenous hut remains, and then we start walking back, and we get around the corner and we start walking back past the path to the right now that leads to the Wendigos. We walk past it and we start going back, and he's telling me about how he brought a lady and her husband or friend. I forget if they were husband or just friends, but he walked ahead and disappeared. They like totally couldn't find him. And when he came back, it's like he was 6 feet tall and started to shrink the closer he got. And so I was like, well, that's a really cool effect. And seeing what I've seen so far, yeah, I could kind of see how that could happen. Well, then the next thing is we start walking and there's a bend in the concrete, except the bend disappeared. The concrete physically went like this, where it's bent, and literally right in front of our face straightened out. So we walked a straight line out, and I look at my friend and I was like, you saw that, right? He goes, yeah, I saw it. And I'm like, concrete doesn't move, and it surely does not form a straight line without breaking. So I don't know what I just saw, but this place is very well piquing my interest. And we go, and so we end up back at the bridge, and this time I look down and I see the water on the right, and I can hear the water moving. And I'm like, now that's interesting, because the moon is further behind me now, but now I can see it. And so I was like, I wonder what's on the other side. The other side of the bridge, the water is it's like glass. There's zero movement. And I look at my friend and I go, okay, I'm not a water expert, but I know water seeks its own movement, and it does not just flow underneath the bridge and just keep the water level up, but perfectly still on the other side. And he's like, yeah, you're right, it doesn't. Yet it was. And so I was like, what is going on here? We get into our cars and I turn the car on, and we're like man, that was a nice hour and a half walk, got my steps in. Remember how I said we started at 11 o'clock at
Right.
night?
Right.
It was 3 in the morning.
Oh,
We had no idea how much time we had actually spent in there,
wow.
but it was not feeling like that many hours.
And it almost sounds like you were walking through an amusement fun house room with the different shaped mirrors to distort the imagery of everything that you were looking at.
It
It's
was,
amazing.
and I mean, seeing shapeshifters, seeing spirits, right, having, hearing cryptids moving around,
Right.
staying in the shadows. It's like, as a paranormal investigator, you're like, I've only ever read or seen, on TV,
Right.
affects this occurrence, and here I am living it. And I'm like, wow. And I get back to the hotel and I'm like, I fall asleep for a few hours and then I'm off on the road heading back to my house. And so I was like, but I said to my friend, I was like, man, I got to come back. I got to do this again because I feel like I just got a small sample of what this forest can do. And he goes, oh, yeah, you did. He goes, it's done a lot more. And I've lost people in here to where we will enter and we can't find them until much later. We're like, they'll pop up somewhere and we're like, how did you get here? And they're
Right.
like, I don't know. And so
Wow.
what's funny is I was talking about it on a show with a friend, and he was in the chat room, and he's like, "Hey, are you coming back this summer to walk the forest again?" And I was like, "Oh, you better believe if I can, I am." So I'm hoping I can return again this summer and make it happen, like a little day or a weekend trip down there. But yeah, I have to say that forest is one of the few moments where I literally was like, I felt like it was a proving ground of, if you say you can see this, it's going to put it in front of you and go, did you see it or not?
Right.
And if you say, I can sense this, it's going to make you sense it. And you're going to be like, did I really just sense that or not? It's like everything that you say you can do, it's going to test you. And it was like, I left there and I was like, I don't even begin to know if I was to write this down, how I would even do it. And I did write it in a book, a little bit about it. And I was like, it's interesting how you were saying, like you wanted to know the impacts of the experience.
Right.
And to this day, even though it's been over a year now since I've been there, I still have a hard time putting the impact into words because I'm like, it's an experience. And I'd like to say, when people ask me, like, hey, can you take me to the forest? I'm like, no, because I don't know where it is and it's not my backyard.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, how do you determine if you're ready for this place? Because all the stuff that I went through, I realized, all my experiences, everything that I grew up with, it was like for this moment. It's like this forest came alive for me and I left there just as I went in. And I feel like that's because of who I was and what crucibles I went through in life leading up to this moment. And I know that sounds kind of strange to say, but it's like the only way I could explain it. It's like, if you want to know the impact, it's like the impact was it made me realize everything I thought about myself was true. And where I thought I was in life is true. It was the ultimate validation of everything in life in one single night.
Right. Well, and I think, just to be fair, when anybody goes in a place like that that is so vibrant, it's so vibrating energy, and a lot of things are coming out, I do believe that a lot of those energies aren't going to allow everybody to see them. It's not just your reception, it's not just your skill availability, it's their reception as well. It's reciprocal. It's not like regular daylight and nighttime. It's not like regular interactions. It's on a whole nother level. And so the fact that you were able to be there and safely go in and out without being harmed, and be able to not just see but hear things as well, tells me that you were well received there. There's others that might go there and see some things, but they may not see as much as you did because they were not well received. So
Right.
it's not just a skill level. Part of it is permission and acknowledgement that you're able to be there and allowed to be there. And I think you're right. I think whatever experiences that you went through to get you to that point had a lot to do with it, because that was going to be one of my next questions for you is, tell us what it was like to grow up in a family of people that did channeling and these types of things. What was that like? Did your friends know about it? Did you talk about it at school or just at home, or how did that work for you?
No, I kept it a secret from kids growing up because I was already getting bullied growing up. And the main reason I was getting bullied is my mom had sat me down and said, fighting doesn't solve anything. So if somebody pushes you around, don't fight back. And another part of me was like, I need to not fight back because I could hurt someone. And I don't want that on my conscience. So I would just let people push me around and, just make a mockery of me. And I was like, yeah. And if I added, yeah, my mom's a medium to it, it would be like a whole nother level. So I was like, nope, I'm not going there. I'm not sharing that with anybody. And I could sense energies around, I think, somewhat at that time, but I wouldn't acknowledge it because I was like, I got to survive school. I got to survive around these people. So if bringing this up is going to make it worse, forget it. I'm just going to go through life, and what comes of it comes of it. And it might have made it harder to do when I got older because I got to undo all that stigma that I put on it. But
Right.
I think it was more of surviving school that I was like, no, I am not bringing this up. I am not sharing this. And I will say, though, the flip side of it is I was talking with someone as we were talking about time traveling, and I said, I could easily sit there and say, oh, let me go back in time and everybody that ever picked on me, turn the tables on them and, go back and make it so I fight back and do this. And I said, but if I do that, I'm not going to be the I am that I am right now.
Right.
I'm going to be different. And so I could end up coming back even being worse than where
Mhm.
I am now, or I could be better. I don't know, but it's not worth it And I said, and then I said to my guest about it, I said, and there's something that people don't think about is if I go back and alter someone picking on me, I have now altered the timeline of the bully. I have altered the timelines of everybody who witnessed,
Right.
and I have altered the timelines of everyone who interacted after the event.
Right.
So it's not just my timeline that I'm altering. And he goes, "That's really perceptive of you. Most people don't realize that." And I was like, "Yeah, there's a bigger impact to going back and changing events than just we think about, because we want our situation to be better, but there's a cost to that."
Right.
And the
They call
cost,
it the butterfly effect or a ripple effect.
right, but the ripple effect isn't just you, it's
Everything.
everybody. And so that's the big important thing is, to sit there and realize, yeah, the kid who's doing the bullying may need to do this because he's learning something where I'm aware and I know, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And we're, being mutual respected. I'm not, it's not like I was put in a wheelchair or I was, not able to complete a task. I was never bullied to that point.
Right.
But I was put into a cast for my arm. I had my arm fractured by a bully pushing me down polished brick stairs.
Ouch.
But I was able to bounce back. And so I was like, yeah, I don't wish harm on that kid. And I don't see a need to go back, and say, oh, I shouldn't have, put my arm in the cast and let me stop it. It's like, no, there's nothing really I would change because I like who I am now and who
Right.
I became.
Right.
And that's the important thing is it doesn't matter what happened to us in the past. It doesn't matter what's going to happen to us in the future. What's happening to us right now is what's important.
Right. Very true.
And when you realize, I came to realize in like watching what triggered this memory and thought was watching Star Trek Insurrection,
Mhm.
where Anise is talking to Picard and she blows this dandelion and the dandelion seeds just stop in midair. And he's like, "How are you doing this?" And she's like, "Questions, questions. Just hold the questions. Don't ask. Just be right now in this moment. This is a moment." And it's like everything just stopped. And I was like, that is really cool. How many times in our lives have we had moments like that where it seemed like everything stopped
Right.
and you were just in this perfect place? And if we've been there once, we can go back and we can go and do it again. What kind of a gift is that? And I kind of started making that like my life's goal was, to make every moment this perfect moment. And in doing that, I realized the past, the future, the present, in order to make that perfect moment, have to collide and collaborate and intermingle in one single solitary moment. And when it does, it is like magic. It is a really cool feeling. And I feel like that's kind of the reason I'm bringing this up is I feel like those moments were coming up in the forest,
Mm.
like seeing the mist forming. It's
Right.
like I could see the veil starting to appear I was in the moment. It's like everything else around me didn't matter.
Right. It
What?
all accumulated to one thing. Can you elaborate a little bit more, Michael, about what it was like for you to have a mom that was a medium? And did you see her do things for people, or what did you experience as an observer and as a child watching your mom?
Oh, I participated. Well, I say I participated. I participated some. Let's put it that way. She would get up at like 5 a.m. with my dad, and they would practice at it and do their daily communes and rituals, and then we would get up later. But I knew from her that this was something really special that we can do, and that I could, and I was like, I felt like watching her, I was learning and I was gaining awareness, and I was like learning how to tap into things. And there were moments in my life where, if I think about it now, and I'm literally thinking about this right now, I might have been channeling as a kid because we had a game, Trivial Pursuit,
Mhm.
biblical version, and I had never read the Bible. I wasn't really into religion, but my mom would like one question she said to me, and she's like, "How many hairs are there on the head?" And I paused for like a second, and I looked at her and I spit a number out, and her jaw drops, and everybody's looking, and they're like, "What?" I mean, mind you, I'm in elementary school, so
How would
we
you know
hadn't
that? Right.
covered, how many hairs are on a head.
Right.
I got the number exactly right.
That's awesome.
And she's like, "How did you do that?" And I said, "I don't know. It just came to me." And so I'm starting now, I'm getting kind of chills thinking, was that spirit coming to me
Right.
and saying, "Here's your answer." And I'm getting channeled information and answering these questions. And we had a joke when I was growing up that I loved to share with people, and my mom and dad loved sharing it too. Is I was floating around deciding if this was the right family for me or not, because I could share conversations that they had before I was born. I had knowledge of these conversations.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You couldn't know this." And I was like, "I know I couldn't, but I do." And that slowly kind of phased off. But yeah, I had to think I was, now that I think about it, I was probably channeling as a kid, waiting, and just waiting for the right time and realizing, yeah, this isn't the right time. Then when it was the right time, boom, it happened. But I would participate with energy circles where she would talk for family friends and bring their loved ones and everything. And we even would teach people how to read energy. And because I could always make my energy really big or almost like it disappeared from the face of the earth, I was always put on the other side of this black plastic we would put up so no light could bleed through, so you couldn't see where I was.
Right.
And I would project energy, say, through an archway next to a fireplace, but I'm standing in the dining room. People would put post-it notes on the archway to the dining room, one maybe in the archway in between, and a lot over in the on the dining room plastic. And my parents would say, "Come on through." So I would, without taking the plastic down, and they'd say who was right, and I would say, "So the people who got this, they were picking up my projection." The people who got here, that's where I really was. This one, you must have caught me in transit because I never was standing here or projecting here. But it was amazing that people could pick up the energy.
Hmm.
And so I was exposed to the, energy and using energy and having it flow freely and learning how to control it. And by controlling it, I mean utilizing it to the benefit and not overwhelming and being like, yeah, you just put a post-it note up on anywhere and you're like, yeah, you got me. I was like, no, I could make it, fine tune it. And so that was a gift in itself. And
That would have been fun. That sounds like a really fun thing to do.
well, and it gets even better.
Oh,
We
yeah,
do
how's that?
I called it, and my mom and dad hated that I called it this, I think, but we all kind of laughed about it. Is there's a red light experiment where you get a red party bulb and a lamp, you shine it on a chair in pitch black, and someone sits in there perfectly still, and you can start to see the body morph and start to move and change into different people. And I called it the red light district of the metaphysics. And they were like, that's not funny, but everybody was laughing. And so I was
I
like,
love
yeah.
it. That's awesome.
But the idea was so, like, if I was sitting in the chair, I'm being perfectly still. I'm allowing every past life of me, every spirit that's in me to manifest and show itself through this red light. And
Mhm.
I even caught on film because I filmed it a couple of times, a couple of friends doing it. And I told my parents, I'd never show the footage out of respect to the person. But
Right,
he would be sitting there like, this is the armrest,
right.
his arms are there. You would see all of a sudden an arm going like this and cross.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's like you could physically see it in
Yeah,
the camera.
sure.
And even in playback, you could see it. And I was like, his arms moved, but they never moved. And it was like the most fun. And so it's like I learned to have fun with energy through them. And the reason why the most impactful thing that my parents gave me and my siblings is we had the freedom and the right to choose our own paths. They didn't sit there and say, we're, Lutheran and Catholic, so you got to be one of the two. You
Right,
could be whatever you wanted to be. And so we butted heads over it and stopped talking for a long time over it, choosing different paths and that they just didn't align. But deep down, it's like there's no animosity or anger, about it because we all chose our own path. And
right,
so it's like I can't fault them for that and I can't, be upset about it because I'm like, that's where they needed to go. I went where I needed to go. And look at the fun that I'm having in life now and
right.
exposed to and learning and growing. And it's, it's a wild ride. And would I say to, anybody, hey, I'm going to, like, if I'm going in, say, August to the forest, I'm not going to put out a Facebook event and say, hey, who wants to join me in this forest? I respect the energy too much. And I'm
Right,
like, yeah, so if I reach out to you and say, hey, I'm doing this, it's because I know inside you can handle it.
right,
Or if I don't say anything to you, it's not you're not aware enough or you're not good enough with the energy. It's like you said, the energies just don't mix with some people. And so if I get a feeling you're not going to mix well with it, I'm not taking you down there and going, I'm going to prove the forest wrong. You're going to be okay because If you come out and you're not okay, that's on me, not on the
Right.
forest. And
Right.
I don't want to be responsible for that.
Right. So what do you these days, so you've had a lot of experiences, you've done a lot of different things. You've done the metaphysical side of things, you've done the Reiki side of things, you've done investigations and podcasting, all different subjects. But what are you most curious about these days? What are you kind of really clinging to about, I want to know more about this thing or that thing?
I would say right now I'm enjoying and I'm going to small towns. Like I on a Friday went to two small towns and just kind of hung out, talked to people, experienced a few things, and wasn't necessarily for investigation, but there are some places I would love to investigate there that I kind of could pick up on, but I know they're not into it, so I respect it. And it's about keeping the history alive and supporting the towns and the areas around you that are trying to keep their history and keep their identity and not get swallowed up in the world as a whole
Right.
and lose themselves to and become ghost towns because nobody wants to be there. It's like there are cool aspects to being in a small town. Not just
Right.
like there's cool aspects to being in a large town or a
Right.
city.
So of all
But
the things that you've done, can you tell me what you're most proud of?
I think what I'm most proud of that I've done is so I'll put it into different facets because there are different facets of my life where accomplishments are somewhat different. And so I would say, in the metaphysical sense, I'm most proud that I became who I am against everything that I experienced in life and got to see my dad change from being who he was when I was in elementary school and middle school to the man he became when he passed away. And so that was a huge gift and tremendous gift that I'm most proud of because it showed me, yeah, I can change things by myself too. Because if he could do it, why can't I? And on the paranormal scale, I would say I'm most proud of the fact that when I investigate, even if I don't fully believe or understand what people are experiencing, I treat them with reverence and respect and going with the mindset in my mind of I wasn't there, so I can't testify what did or did not happen. So until someone shows me something opposite, I take you at face value and believe what you tell me that you
Right.
experienced. And with that, I do use discernment of trusting my energy to, if it feels right, then I'm like, okay, I'm all for it. And if it feels off, I'll just kind of nod and be like, yeah, that's really cool that you had that happen. And I won't pursue and, investigate it any further because I'm like, something feels off. Maybe it was something not paranormal and that, it was misidentified and, there's nothing really to look into. Where if someone tells me something that I can't explain, it kind of drives me to want to investigate it further and find the answer. And if I can't find the answer, then I'm like, hey, at least somebody can pick up from where I left off, and maybe they'll find the answer by taking what I did a little bit further, where I didn't want to take it further. And in podcasting, I will say for both shows, I am really proud of the fact that I create a safe space to where anyone can come on and share their experiences and their stories free of judgment and free of an agenda by the host. And I just create a space and I'm like, as long as we're on the air, I will defend your right to be on the air. And I've gained a lot of friendships out of it too. And so I'm really happy about that. And I would say overall in life, the accomplishment that I'm most proud of, I've been able to make friends and keep friends and share with people who I authentically am and not feel like I have to change myself to fit this person's viewpoint or that person's viewpoint, and that I've come through all these crucibles like I was talking about earlier and became who I am now, and I'm keep changing and keep growing, but I keep changing and growing for myself, not for others. And that's like a mark that I feel like I'm leaving on the planet. And the hope, is people will see that and be like, hey, I'm not liking where I am, but hey, look at what he did. He kind of overcame a lot too. Well, why can't I? Or maybe inspire people just by being me to, do something that they think they can't do. And
Right.
that's a really cool gift to leave. And it's nothing that it's like I never set myself up to do that.
Right.
But I hear people saying it and I'm like, and I'm hearing, people watching the shows and are saying, hey, you've made an impact in this person's life. And I'm like, I don't even know that person. And wow, how cool is that
Right.
I did that without trying or without meaning to.
Right. For the people that are just listening to this, would you mind spelling out the contact information for you for people that want to watch your podcast or that want to send you a message, perhaps?
Sure. So if you want to send a message, I do check comments on YouTube. I have channels for my shows and a main channel for myself. So there's 4 channels. So boy, you got me on the spot. I gotta look to see what I call
Okay.
the channels. I do happen to have it up. And so for if you want to watch the energy that surrounds us, it's www.youtube.com/@TETSU, all in uppercase, podcasts and podcast show. And that is my show, The Energy That Surrounds Us. Now, if you want to watch Riding Through the Unknown, it's youtube.com/@TETSU, Riding Through the Unknown with the R, T, and U capitalized. And those are my 2 main shows. I do co-host a paranormal show with a friend in the UK named Kel Ridley. She created a show and we teamed up and collaborate, and it's called Paranormal Versus. And you can find those shows on YouTube at youtube.com/ at paranormal versus with the period hyphen UY2NP. Don't ask me why it's got that, but that's
Okay.
what YouTube made it. So,
Right.
and my main YouTube channel, I had to rename it this a year ago, and so I made it to Michael Kopf hyphen 2025 because that's the year they made me redo it. So I was like, yeah, I'll always remember that.
Right.
And on Rumble, it's a little bit easier if you like Rumble. I am on Rumble, and my personal channel, if you want to watch my interviews or shows that I feel like have a really strong message that resonates with me, it's rumble.com/Michael Koff's Adventures. Or you can watch Riding Through the Unknown on Rumble by looking up Riding Through the Unknown. The energy that surrounds us on Rumble is TETSU. And Paranormal Versus is on Rumble as well under Paranormal Versus podcast show. And the funny thing about how I look at the world is I create, I like acronyms. And so for me, seeing, the energy that surrounds us, I'm like, that's got a really cool acronym, Tetsu. Well, one day I was kind of bored and I was like, what does Tetsu even mean? Is that even a word? And I looked it up, and sure enough, in the Japanese language, Tetsu is the word for iron. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So I was like, I'm really glad I like that,
That's cool.
acronym. And so I use Tetsu for that. And Riding Through the Unknown, I'd like to say I have a cool acronym for that, but it's just RTTU. So it doesn't make a word. Sorry, folks.
That's
I kind of
okay.
dropped the ball on that one and didn't plan the title accordingly, where the energy that surrounds us, I actually had like 3 other titles, and when we went live, that's the one I said. And so I was like, well, that's the one I said, so that's the one we're sticking with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I know I had a whole page written down of different names. I could not pick one. I just didn't know what to do. Yeah. Well, Michael, this has been a blast. You have been absolutely a joy to listen to. You have a lot of great stories, and I love hearing about how things got started for you. That's very cool. I'm definitely going to have to look for your other channels to be sure. If there's anything that you would say to someone who's thinking about channeling, what would you say? What would be like 2 things you would tell someone?
First thing I would tell them is be yourself. Don't try to make your channelings like other people's. Just do it the way that's comfortable to you and just be yourself with it. And the second thing I would say to people is don't force it, let it come natural, and don't let it control you. That you can totally set up to where you can have the gifts really prevalent during certain hours or in certain ways so that you don't succumb to I can't go anywhere or go out to eat or anything because the spirits always are hounding me. That is true somewhat, but you can also there are workarounds for it. So don't let it encompass you to the point that you lose your identity to it.
Good advice. Good advice. I usually tell people something similar, but I basically tell them set your boundaries because you will wipe yourself out. I learned the hard way. You can give too much and lose your energy, and you can replace it, but it takes a while to recharge your batteries. And so I have boundaries at my home because I do the seance here, and I had to tell the ghosts the first night we were here, I have to sleep. You cannot come in my room. You cannot wake me up unless there's literally someone bleeding to death. Otherwise, don't talk to me. I need to sleep. And,
Yeah.
the rest of the time, if you need to talk to me, that's great. But not when I'm sleeping. Leave me alone and don't bother my husband and don't wake the dog. None of the sneaky stuff or, dropping things off in the living room or whatever. I had spirits that are here on a regular basis and they've asked me many times to leave a TV on all night for them. And it's like, no, because I'll never sleep. I need the quiet. It's like, no. Once in a while during the day, I'll leave it on for them if I'm out of the house. But it's like, no, we're not doing that. It's like, this is my time to live. You had your time. You've got your things to do. I got mine. This is my house right now. And so this is what my rules are going to be for my house. And it's not mean. It's because they had to have boundaries when they were alive and you need yours. And so it's
Right.
not unreasonable. It's not mean to say no to a spirit. It's okay to tell them to wait. It's really okay.
Yeah, and to piggyback on one thing you said is you said, you have to recharge your energy because it's draining. I found it's actually better when you just use yourself as a conduit and don't use your energy, use the universe's energy
Yep.
because then you don't get drained and you don't end up feeling like at the end of it you're just as refreshed. And one thing that popped in my head just now that is kind of a funny thing to say is you were a choice to remember and not remember what's said in a session. So make your intention known and stand behind it. So if you say, my intention is not to remember, and people start asking you questions and you answer them and say, oh, this is this, the universe is not going to end it and you're going to constantly remember everything. But if you were to say to people, you missed your opportunity because I don't know what they said, even if you do, by saying I don't know, it signifies to them and to the universe, yeah, you don't want the memory. You don't want to know what was talked about because that's a lot of information to
It is.
sit through, and then you have to figure out what is yours and what is theirs.
Yeah. For me, I view myself as a toolbox or a tool in the toolbox of life. And so when I'm being a wrench or a hammer or whatever it is that I'm being for someone else, um, I do filter the energy from the universe because it's not me. It's not my information. It's something for someone else. And I trust the universal consciousness to know what they need to hear or see. And I don't expect myself to remember. I have had people contact me later and say, remember when you did that reading for me? And it's like, you're going to have to give me some clues and then I can go back there. But I don't keep that in the forefront of my brain because it's too much. You're right. It's way too much. I started counting my readings just online a couple of years ago. And when I hit 300, I thought, this is nuts. I don't need to know how many. I just wrote down names and dates because I had repeats and I thought that was amazing because I'd never really paid that much attention to it. But that always warmed my heart because I had people that would contact me once a year or once every 2 years or whatever. And I loved catching up and hearing how things went and what developed and there's nothing more amazing than having another human being say, you were spot on. Everything you said happened. Everything you told me about this or that or the other, I understood. It meant something to me and I felt it. And it's like, that's something incredible when you can make those connections with people. It's really a blessing. Definitely.
Yes, definitely.
So what's your next podcast going to be? What day does it come out, or what days do you launch your new shows?
So this week is an unusual week. I have one show tonight at 9 o'clock live with Medium Red. And tomorrow at 3 o'clock on Riding Through the Unknown, I have Kate Rose on. And then at 9 o'clock, I go back to the energy that surrounds us for Reagan Foster to share his stories. And Wednesday, I have an unusual day of at 4 o'clock, 3 guests on Riding Through the Unknown: Alex Collier, Tony Rodriguez, and Brad Olson, all at the same time. And then at 6 o'clock, I have Anchor Haven returning. She's in the UK, so I'm doing it a little bit early so she can try and get some sleep. And then Thursday at 10 a.m., I have Riding Through the Unknown with Marvel Bliss, and she's going to share her story and experiences. And then at 7 p.m., I have 1 hour of mediumship readings with Tammy, in which the chat room is up for grabs who gets a reading and who doesn't. The only thing we ask is if you start the show, stay with us for the hour, because just because you don't have someone in the beginning doesn't mean you can't have someone in the middle or the end.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can have someone come in during a reading, and sometimes they get mixed, and we have 2 tangents going at the same time. And so we do our best to funnel through and muddle our way through and get everybody that we can. But we do our best to stay to the hour too. And it is a once a month thing. And so you have to follow along on Riding Through the Unknown. You have to subscribe and follow, because those like the reading, that's a random once in a month. We don't have a set day.
Gotcha.
So you just gotta, it's going to be a Thursday. We just don't know which Thursday. And it's always at 7 o'clock. So you just got to follow along to see the alert for it. And follow along on the energy that surrounds us and Riding Through the Unknown, because I randomly will have episodes on like a Monday, Thursday, or a Friday, but they're only on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But depending on the guest, I sometimes have to branch out and go to other days, and so I accommodate. And so that's why you got to like and subscribe and follow along, because you never know when I'm actually going to pop on to do an episode and what time, because it's this month, it's pretty much I'm at the whims of the guest.
I get that. Well, I really appreciate your time, Michael, and thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all this amazing information. It's really been a blast. And yes. I just want to tell everybody, my good friend Jay always likes to remind me, please make sure that you hit like. It really makes a difference. I know it takes 2 seconds. Just put your thumb over there, use your clicker on your TV, just hit like and share so other people can find this content, because the paranormal is normal for most of us. And if you've never experienced the paranormal, I bet you will someday, or you'll come across something and you'll go, that was a little different. Maybe that was paranormal. This is how we find out, by talking and listening. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for listening and staying with us. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium, and Michael saying thanks for stopping in, and we'll hope to see you again soon.
Yes, I'll be happy to come on anytime. And
that'd be great.
I like to say on my shows, in full transparency, I gotta say, yay to this finally happening, because we had 2 other attempts at it and we
Yep.
finally got it.
I know. It was
So
awesome.
yay!
So thanks for your patience too. That's awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.